Okay, so science is the practical and intellectual activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical world through observation and experiment. Okay, so etymologically, science breaks down as sciente or sair, right? Which means to know, right? Sciente or sair in Old Latin means to know. Science is a systematic um, study of knowing. It's a way of obtaining cause and effect through knowing. Okay? Now, the more that you ask questions, the more you will obtain answers. I always tell my people, asking questions is the first step to obtaining answers. Okay, it's impossible to obtain an answer without asking a question. Okay, so the signal has to be sent, then it can be received. So unless you are sending out signals, you're not going to receive anything. So that's just the way it works. For every action, there's an equal to or opposite reaction for that initial action. Okay, call that the universal law of attraction. So we have to understand who we are as melanated people, and even dealing with health, right? This is dealing with nature, right? The more natural we are, the more healthier we are. When we begin to astray from things that are natural, there are negative effects, right? And we know just by common logic. When you do something that's good, there's positive effects. When you do something that's bad, there's negative effects. When you do something that's correct, there's positive effects. When you do something that's incorrect or that's in error, there's negative effects. So when you're unnatural, there's negative effects. This is why I take it upon myself to become a natural scientist, so I can focus on my knowledge of creation and the mechanics of how things work. And through this, I'm able to get insight on the philosophies, the concepts of creation, and the concepts of God, the way that God thinks. Now, you can give credit to the religious God. You can give credit to forces that are not responsible for your being if you choose. But I shall give my credit to that which is responsible for my existence, okay? And I look at God like a parent. God is nothing more than a parent. God is the creator. So when you're thinking about it like that, God being the creator, you being a parent if you have children, I know me and my children, I love my children. My children are a reflection of me and who I am and my characteristics, my traits, you feel me? And a lot of the things that I can do with my capabilities, I feel like they're capable of, and even more than what I am, you know? But I expect them to grow and develop. I don't get mad if they ask questions like they say the religious God is. The religious God don't want you to ask any questions. The religious God is jealous. I want my children to ask questions. I want my children to understand. I want to be able to communicate and interact with my children so that I could guide them to a point of maturity to where they're able to make decisions for themselves and live a sufficient lifestyle, you know? So it's all about the evolution of existence. The knowledge shapes your reality. The less you know, the smaller your reality gets. And the more you know, the more your reality begins to change. You know what I'm saying? Nature is the direct source of life. And without nature, there is no life. Okay? We must understand that, brothers and sisters. Okay? So if you want to understand what's beneficial for black people and for the change of the demographics that we see on the planet and the political bias, we have to understand what it means to be natural. Not things that are man-made, manipulated. Okay? GMO, genetically modified organisms. It's conflict within the natural system when it comes to nature and the design of things. When people modify the DNA of things, these things become deficient life forms. Okay? A lot of genetic deficiencies today come from hybridization of the human genome. Right? We know that this is taking place when you look up the domesticated plant list, when you look up the Cartagena Protocol, okay? And you look up just biosafety. Modern biosafety is based upon genetic diversity. Genetic diversity is another word for hybrid organisms, okay? Crossbreeds, and the crossbreed is a strain between two different species, okay? These are not direct byproducts of nature. This is the modification of a supreme intelligence. Something is as intelligent as the sun, as the moon, as the stars, and is able to create the atoms, that creates the molecules, that creates the elements, it formulates the cells and the bodily tissues, and everything is mathematically calculated. Everything is geometrical in creation. Everything is calculated. This is a supreme intelligence that's responsible for our reality. You got to understand, when you're dealing with nature, you're dealing with a supreme intelligence. So for man to come behind something that's intelligent and to not meet that same level of intelligence, it's like a blasphemous act. Now we're dwelling in vanity, things that serve no purpose. Everything in nature is created with a specific intent, with a specific purpose and design. So being that black people, or melanated people, should I say, are the original indigenous sovereign citizens of the planet Earth, meaning that we are the parent species of all other groups of humans. That's why you have universal donors. When you look at the ABO blood group study and you get into cell biology, there's a specific group of cells that's responsible for the phenotypical traits of black people. And this is why I say natural science is so important, because everything that benefits you lies within nature. You want to do something, you have to put forth actions. Doing nothing only results in nothing. To obtain riches and wealth, you have to put in a lot of time and energy. Okay, to be fit, you have to go to the gym, you have to diet, you have to sacrifice certain things, specifically your time and energy. Okay, you want to be smart. Okay, it's a lot of the times that's inherently given, I believe, but also to keep yourself sharp, you have to study, you have to read. So to achieve anything requires actions, doing something, investment, sacrifice, time and energy. Okay, pay attention to nature, pay attention to science. Okay, now just because Egyptology came out in the 1800s doesn't mean that these Europeans are the founders of science. Okay, science is a prehistoric discipline, okay? Before any man thought any thought, before any man documented any text, he had to be brought into existence by nature. It's impossible to think a thought without the electrical force of the electromagnetic biosphere that transfers these electrical signals throughout your neurons, okay? These are forces of nature. When a person loses their electricity, okay, which is a part of electromagnetic biosphere as well, an individual begins to deteriorate. Cells begin to deteriorate. This is what causes decomposition in life forms. There's no form without electricity, okay? It is a force in the universe that is responsible for certain things. That's what I mean by studying science. It lets you know the structure, the behavioral patterns of nature, okay? Now, this is something that we all share, regardless of our belief system, okay? We need the sun to shine its light, to provide the planet with the energy to produce us resources. Photosynthesis is what grows plants. Plant life responds to the electrical signals of the sun and begins to produce apples, oranges, bananas, different resources that we need to live and to sustain, okay? Also, photosynthesis purifies the waters, right? This is where vaporization comes in. The excitation of atomic nuclei from the electrical signals speeding up the particle acceleration from the sun. This purifies matter, makes matter go through different phases of existence, from liquid to vapor, from vapor to liquid to solid. All this is based upon the temperature of the sun, okay? People considering the Bible to be historical and scientific literacy, as if these things are something that happened or something that is that can be traced, something that can be explained, something that can be shown to and proven to be evident. Okay? It's impossible for you to write a Bible without an environment. So you got to understand, how could the Bible say in the beginning there was this and that when the planet was not in formation, when no human could document their thoughts because there was no ecosystem to sustain them? How could you think a thought without existence, without an environment? See, these are the things that we have to challenge when it comes to religion, because we're taking face value. We're listening to the words and the scriptures, and we're taking it to heart without challenging the logic and the reason and these concepts that really are pseudoscience or science fiction. There's no explanation. There's no means of showing something like that to be evident. You know, there's no evidence of it. So my whole thing with it is, I feel like science is a means of knowing, is a knowing system. Religion is a belief system, okay? And we are like cells to the planet, right? And our cells are a networking system that makes up our bodies. And we have to feed our cells certain things. Okay, so one thing that we know for sure is that the Bible is supposedly inspired by God, okay? People say the word of God, they act like, you know, God literally wrote it down. You know what I'm saying? That's not what happened. The Bible was supposed to be inspired by God. Nobody in the Bible had a Bible, okay? The people in the Bible were supposedly inspired by God through thought, okay? So we have to understand the first means of communication in physical reality is through thought. It's impossible to take a step without thinking, take a step. It's impossible to raise my hand without thinking, raise my hand. It's impossible to document any thought, you know, any words or any text without having that thought, that initial thought, okay? And this is what they mean by inspired by God, okay? Individuals who were communicating with the divine forces of nature through thought, okay? The original ancient schools were mystic schools of thought, not schools of literal learning like today when you go to school and, you know, they got certain curriculums that they teach that's already preset. You feel me? And if you challenge these curriculums or you put something down other than what they have as the answer, they may not accredit you, you know? They may consider your information to be wrong. And they never really give people a chance to challenge the information and to understand the information. But the ancient method of teaching were schools of thought. So thought is encouraged.